When you mock someone who is not only your superior, but also has received the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration,
that is exactly what happened to
this
this
gate agent. It's likely that you will get into trouble. Before we continue with the video, make sure to subscribe so you won't miss any news stories. The Medal of Honor is awarded to service members who distinguish themselves by an act of valor above and beyond the call of duty. It's considered the highest military decoration awarded to members of the United States Armed Forces. And when someone who works in the airport security is rude to someone who has received such an award, it will cause a lot of problems for him. Let's take a look at what happened to the gate agent. Jack Ench was born on November 27, 1936. He lived with his family in Texas until he decided to enlist in the United States Marine Corps. He served in the Corps for over 20 years until he retired in 1980. Jack was known as a man who always put others before himself. He would help everyone whenever he could. That's why it was not a surprise to anyone when during his service he saved many lives and ended up receiving the highest honor for military personnel, the Medal of Honor. In 1967, while Ench was serving in Vietnam, he rescued many people from enemy fire. His unit had been pinned down by an enemy machine gun and mortar fire. Despite the danger, Ench repeatedly exposed himself to the enemy fire to carry his wounded comrades to safety. He moved from one wounded Marine to another, administering first aid and carrying them to a safe location. Even though he was almost out of ammunition and the evacuation helicopter couldn't land, Ench refused to give up. He continued rescuing his comrades until they were all brought to safety. Thanks to his bravery and selflessness, many lives were saved. After returning home from war, Ench continued to serve. He taught young Marines how to practice marksmanship, drill, and how to handle weapons. He was a dedicated and caring teacher, always making sure his students were prepared for whatever situation they might face. In 1979, he helped train the first female Marine recruits to complete the infantry training at the School of Infantry in San Diego. And 2 years later, he received the highest award for military personnel, the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is the highest military decoration awarded by the United States. It's given to those who have distinguished themselves by acts of valor above and beyond the call of duty. The ceremony took place at the White House and was attended by President Ronald Reagan and other high-ranking officials. During the ceremony, President Reagan praised Ench's bravery and selflessness, calling him a true American hero. Eons was deeply honored to receive the medal and saw it as a recognition of the sacrifices made by all service members who serve their country. After retiring from the Marines, Eons continued to serve his country in different ways. He became an advocate for veterans, working to improve their access to health care and other benefits. Also spoke at schools and other events about the importance of patriotism and the sacrifices made by those who serve in the military. Many years after the Vietnam War, Ench was still haunted by the images and memories of the fallen soldiers he left behind. To cope with his PTSD, he started visiting veterans' hospitals dressed as Santa Claus, bringing Christmas cheer to those who had sacrificed so much for our country. On February 22, 2014, Ench passed away at the age of 77. But his legacy of bravery, selflessness, and patriotism continues to inspire people around the world. He will be remembered as a true American hero who saved many lives during the Vietnam War and touched the lives of countless veterans through his work at the VA hospital. And now, let's get back to the story. It was one ordinary day at the airport when Jack Ench, a retired Marine and Medal of Honor recipient, arrived for his flight. He was excited to board the plane and enjoy a well-deserved vacation. However, he had no idea that he was in for an unpleasant surprise. As he approached the check-in counter, he noticed a long line of passengers waiting to be processed. He patiently waited his turn, thinking it was just another busy day at the airport. But when he got to the front of the line, everything changed. The check-in agent was a young woman who seemed to be having a bad day. She was rude and dismissive, not even acknowledging Ennis's presence. When it was finally his turn, she looked at him with a bored expression and asked for his passport. As he handed over his passport, she quickly scanned it without a word. She then turned away from him and began typing furiously on her computer. Eanes stood there awkwardly, unsure of what to do next. He cleared his throat politely, but the agent ignored him, still typing away on her computer. After a few moments, she finally looked up at Ench and said, "Sir, you need to pay for your checked bag." Confused, Ench replied, "I didn't check a bag." I only have a carry-on. The agent rolled her eyes and gestured impatiently for him to leave. As Inch turned to walk away, he couldn't believe what he had just experienced. He had never been treated so rudely, especially not by someone who was supposed to be providing customer service. He shook his head in disbelief and started to make his way to the security checkpoint. However, he couldn't shake off the feeling of anger and injustice. He couldn't understand why the agent had treated him so poorly, especially considering his military service and his status as a Medal of Honor recipient. As he walked through the security checkpoint, he could unhelp but think about how the agent's behavior reflected poorly on the airline and the country as a whole. He had always believed that America was a nation that valued respect and honor, but the agent's actions had made him question that belief. As Inch waited for his flight to be announced, he couldn't help but dwell on the incident with the check-in agent. He couldn't understand why she had treated him so badly, especially considering his military background. He had always prided himself on his service to the country and the numerous medals and commendations he had received, including the highest honor, the Medal of Honor. Despite his efforts to brush off the incident, he couldn't help but feel angry and insulted. He sat down on a nearby bench and tried to calm himself down, but the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Meanwhile, the airline staff were making announcements over the intercom, but Enche wasn't paying attention. He was still fuming over the check-in agent's behavior and wondering if anyone would acknowledge it. Suddenly, he heard a commotion at the check-in counter and turned to see a group of people gathered around the agent. Curious, he got up from the bench and walked over to see what was going on. As he got closer, he heard snippets of conversation and realized that the same agent who had treated him so rudely was now in trouble. A supervisor was talking to her in a stern voice and shaking his head in disapproval. Ench couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction, knowing that someone was finally holding the agent accountable for her actions. The supervisor had called the police and they had arrived to escort the agent out of the airport. As the agent was being led away in handcuffs, she looked up and saw Inch standing there watching her. She immediately broke down and started sobbing uncontrollably. Everyone at the airport turned to look at her, and some people even started taking pictures with their phones. Ench felt a mix of emotions at the sight of the agent crying, but he knew that she had brought it upon herself. He turned away from her and went back to his seat, feeling a sense of justice being served. Within minutes, an announcement came over the intercom, informing passengers that the flight had been delayed due to unforeseen circumstances. Ench knew that the incident with the check-in agent had caused a stir and was likely the reason for the delay. He sat back and waited, knowing that the airline staff were probably trying to sort out the situation. As time passed, Inch couldn't help but wonder how the airline would handle the situation. He had never been in this type of situation before and wasn't sure what to expect. Would the airline apologize for the check-in agent's behavior? How would they make up for the delay? These questions raced through his mind as he waited for an update from the airline staff. As Inch waited for the flight, he couldn't help but think about the impact of the check-in agent's actions. Her behavior had not only ruined her own reputation, but also that of the airline. He wondered if the airline would take action to prevent such incidents from happening again. He hoped that the airline would use this situation as a learning opportunity and implement measures to ensure that all passengers were treated with respect and dignity. He knew that this incident had been blown over by the media and had probably caused quite a stir among customers. To his surprise, shortly after the announcement came over the intercom, a group of men in black suits and sunglasses arrived at the gate. They identified themselves as agents and explained that they needed to speak with Mr. Ench. Curious, Ench agreed to meet with them. As the agents approached, he couldn't help but feel a sense of curiosity and intrigue. What did they want to talk to him about? Had the airline contacted them regarding the check-in agent's behavior? When they finally reached him, Inch politely greeted them and asked what they wanted. The lead agent introduced himself and explained that they needed to ask Inch some questions regarding the check-in agent's behavior. Inch readily agreed to answer any questions they had, wanting to do his part to help resolve the situation. The agent thanked Inch and began asking him a series of questions about the incident. Inch provided as much detail as he could, hoping that his answers would help the situation be resolved quickly. After the meeting, the agents thanked Inch for his cooperation and told him that they would keep him updated on any developments. As the agents left the room, Inch couldn't help but wonder what they would do next. He knew that the incident had been widely publicized and that the airline was under pressure to respond. What would happen to the check-in agent? Would the airline take action to prevent similar incidents from happening again? These questions raced through his mind as he waited for the agents to return. Ench decided to use this time to relax and take a deep breath. He had been through a lot lately and needed a moment to calm down. He closed his eyes and tried to focus on the present moment, blocking out the noise and chaos of the airport. As he meditated, he couldn't help but reflect on his life and career. He thought about his time in the military and the many challenges he had faced. He also thought about his family and friends and the support they had given him throughout his life. As Ench meditated, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. He had lived a fulfilling life and had made a positive impact on the world. Had served his country with honor and had been recognized for his bravery and selflessness. He had also built strong relationships with his family and friends who had supported him through thick and thin. As the minutes passed, Ench felt a sense of calm and tranquility wash over him. He knew that he had nothing to worry about and that everything would work itself out. He opened his eyes and turned to see the agents standing there with a serious expression on their faces. "Mr. Ench," the lead agent began, "we have some news to share with you." Ench leaned forward, eager to hear what they had to say. "We've decided to honor you by upgrading you to first class on this flight. In every flight you take with us from now on." Ench was taken aback by their offer and couldn't help but smile. "Thank you so much," he said, "but what about the check-in agent?" The lead agent looked at Ench with a solemn expression. "We fired her on the spot, and we're cooperating fully with the police investigation. We want you to know that we take your feedback seriously and are committed to improving our services." Ench felt a sense of satisfaction knowing that justice had been served. But he also felt a sense of empathy for the check-in agent. He knew that she had made a mistake, but he didn't want her to be vilified. As Ench settled into his first-class seat, he couldn't help but reflect on the events of the day. He had experienced the worst of humanity in the check-in agent, but he had also seen the best in the airline staff. Over the next few hours, the flight attendants and pilots made it a point to check in on Ench, apologizing for the incident and thanking him for his service. He was touched by their kindness and support, and it made him feel good about flying with the airline. As the plane touched down at its destination, Ench couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. He had made it through a harrowing experience and had come out on top. He knew that the incident with the check-in agent would stay with him for a long time. But he was grateful for the support he had received from the airline staff. He knew that this experience had been a test of his character, and he was proud of the way he had handled it. As Ench stepped off the plane, he was met with a swarm of reporters and cameras. They wanted to know his thoughts on the incident and how he felt about the airline's response. Ench knew that this was his moment to stand up for himself and other veterans like him. He took a deep breath and addressed the crowd. "I'm here today to represent all the veterans who have been treated with disrespect. We deserve to be treated with honor and dignity, and I won't stand by and let that happen." His words resonated with the crowd, and the reporters nodded in agreement. Ench continued, "I want to thank the airline staff who have supported me through this difficult time. They have shown me that they care about their customers and are committed to making things right." As Ench spoke, he knew that he was making a difference. He was raising awareness about the importance of treating veterans with respect and honoring their service. He hoped that his experience would inspire other veterans to speak up and demand the respect they deserve. And that's all for the day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share for more amazing stories. See you in the next one.